In March 2015, the head of Sony Music Nashville flatly stated in an interview with the Tennessean that, quote, if you're not on country radio, you don't exist. Within just a few weeks, he was out of a job. I'm Billy Dukes, and this week on the Future of Country Music, I want to ask a simple question posed to me by a friend and a contemporary, a fellow music journalist. Radio is not the only platform now, she says. So why do we put so much emphasis on it? And from there, maybe we should be pointing out that instead of trying to figure out how to make radio do the things we want it to do, how else we can find artists, or in the case of us inside the industry, lead people to find new female artists. And I frankly could not agree more. And after some thought, I think I have an answer as to why we're trying to bend radio to our will. But it's not a very satisfying answer. But first, let's look at the alternative. The alternative, if you're an artist, means finding another way. It means clearing new ground, and at times it means finding another means of income until you've found enough fans and supporters to allow you to keep making music for a living. It means hustling and hearing people say no to your face as opposed through a record label representative. It means a hell of a lot of travel to play these small clubs and smoky bars that might end up ripping you off. It means recognizing that making music is not like making automobiles. At a car factory, one man has one job, much like one woman country singer wants to have just one job, make music, but that's not the economy we live in any longer. I don't just write on Taste of Country. You don't just plumb or teach or serve fries or whatever you do for a full-time job. We're all counted on to do more if we truly want to get ahead, and those that get ahead the fastest don't sit around waiting to be picked. I think it also means that there's no one to blame but ourselves if things don't work out, and that is a damn scary concept. There are women doing this, though. Artists who are not depending on radio to nurture their music right now. Kelly Bannon is an artist that I keep coming back to, but there certainly are plenty more. Stephanie Quayle, Kaylee Shore, and the song Suffragettes just started a new initiative. Kaylee and artist Savannah Kies are going to do a regular feature called Let the Girls Play on Radio Disney Country. They found some really creative ways to build a career. Jesse James Decker, Gretchen Wilson, Lindsay L., they've all really diversified, and they get it. The alternative, if you're a fan of women in country music, means being held accountable. If you're not pushing up against an immovable object day after day, you're going to have to attend the shows and buy the music, spread the gospel in ways that are really a lot less provocative and slower spreading than just yelling at radio station programmers. It means you might have to work harder to find the music you love because it's not brought to you at 50,000 watts. You know, a 50-50 male-female split at radio would make things really, really easy, but we've never really come close to that, and I'd argue that traditional means of broadcast will become extinct before our society truly embraces equality. So I think the answer to why we put so much emphasis on radio is because it's easiest, and it's the most obvious, and in theory, it's the quickest. I listen and I read a lot of works by an author and marketer named Seth Godin, and frankly, I steal a lot of his concepts to apply here. Thank you, sir. And perhaps the most important one is this idea of getting picked and why we wait to get picked. You know, with YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Pandora, and a dozen other ways to market yourself. Why is any artist waiting to get picked? And I think this answer is this idea that you've not made it until you're notching radio hits. And frankly, that's older than you or me here. If you're making meaningful music for a small, passionate fan base, you're still making it. If your songs are changing lives, is that not kind of why you're making music? Is that not making it? Does it matter if you have to have a full-time job in the meantime? A lot of other artisans do. Authors, painters, sculptors, and nearly every other practice has to have a full-time job until they get their big break. There's no shame in this as long as the art is honest and meaningful. You pick yourself. Casey Musgraves did it. She's not on the radio. Aaron Watson perhaps has done it better than anyone else. I realize Aaron Watson is not a woman. He gets a little love now on the radio, but when the Sony president made that remark back in 2015, he just notched his first #1 album with absolutely no support from country radio outside of Texas. And here's a true story about Aaron. He used to buy radio advertising time to play his music back in Texas. So you don't need a programmer to tell you that you can make your art. And I've said this multiple times, but by hammering on radio stations, we're really reinforcing this bankrupt idea that if you're not on country radio, you don't exist. It's so dangerous to this generation and the next generation, because the messaging is it's not art unless it reaches a certain level of mass media exposure. It's art if it's honest, if it's generous, and pure, even if it's just your grandma who's loving it. You can make $1 million, or you can make a difference. What would you rather choose? So, I think things are going to change. A new year-end chart from Billboard shows that we've reached historical lows in terms of women on the radio, but people are still explaining it away. And by people, I mean, people are explaining it away and blaming the artists, which I think we all know here in this conversation is kind of foolish and ignorant. I don't think the change is going to come how we expect it to come, however. In fact, I think that when change comes, it's going to be because the country music establishment is begging for more women on the radio. How is that going to happen? That's next week on the Future of Country Music. Thank you so much for watching to this point. I do think we had a couple of questions or comments. One right here. Molly, who says, Carrie is a big artist and got screwed this year. Bummer as a fan. I wouldn't say she got screwed. I thought she was certainly worthy of a nomination. She released her album pretty late. Her album was eligible, released in September. Cry Pretty song, I don't know. I hear a lot of mixed reaction to Cry Pretty. You know, some people really love that song. It seemed really powerful and inspiring for a few months there, and then like all of a sudden people were sick of it. It's hard to say she got screwed. She just kind of got edged out. I'm not sure if that song was deserving. And as far as the CMA love goes, I don't think a lot of her songs were eligible for CMA Artist of the Year. Next year, I think she is. You know, if she doesn't get some love in 2019 and 2020, I think there's a pretty good case to be made that she got hosed. And we'll certainly include her in the snubs. A couple of questions I got in comments, including one from Parker on YouTube, who asked if there was a correlation between the pop country sound and the lowered age of average women on the radio. This goes back to last week's episode, where we talked about how the average age of women with number one hits is down in the mid-20s when it used to be well into the 30s. I think so. I think there is a correlation between pop country, and I think what's happening is a trend that's going to happen anyway. This pop country train is coming. It ain't slowing down. I think it's being rushed maybe a little bit by some younger artists who are getting a chance maybe before they're fully ready. I think the older artist currently is a little bit more rooted in traditional country music. He also asked if women who complain get punished. Women who complain about women on the radio get punished, and I think that's probably, there is some truth to that. Cam is the artist that comes to mind immediately as one who was really outspoken and had a great song that went nowhere. I personally think Cam might have martyred herself, and I think she might have known it when she was speaking out on the radio. She's now on a different non-country label as well, a non-country division of Sony. And I think that's going to be really interesting to watch. A couple of songs to keep a really close eye on for 2019 that I think will be bellwether songs for how we're doing with this conversation is Carly Pearce's Closer to You, which is right down Main Street country music. Easy hit. And Ashley McBride's Girl Going Nowhere, which is the third single from her album. I think that has Song of the Year potential. It is a really powerful, moving song that could be the it song of 2019, or it could absolutely disappear like, I don't know, a fart in the breeze. I'm hoping certainly that song gets a lot of airplay because I think she's a special artist and I think that's a really special song. Thanks for the comments on Twitter at Billy Dukes, Billy at townsquaremedia.com, and as I mentioned, this episode will be on YouTube about 8 a.m. on Saturday morning with links to some of the things we've talked about, and you can comment there and we'll have a conversation on YouTube as well. You can find me on Facebook, and if you liked it, share it. Give a thumbs up. Tell someone what's going on. I appreciate all the support thus far. This hasn't been a wide-ranging conversation. We're not reaching thousands or millions of people. But I think slowly but surely, if we kind of keep at it, understanding we're going to make a difference here and be part of the women in country music solution and stop the women in country music problem. Thanks, guys.